Go like that and go shabam. All right. Happy Valentine's Day. Welcome to Houston with a Problem on February 14th, 2022. The VIX is doing well. Most things went in the red zone today. Let's see here. Where's my UVXY? I went down at the end there. But it was up to... Yeah, it was at $1.04 on UVXY calls at one point today. And it kind of went back down to where it started again. It sounds like everything gets bad. Oh no! And then people buy it up and kind of halt whatever getting badness there is. But yeah, U.S. and others are pulling their citizens out of Ukraine. What else we got going on, Monkey? I don't know. Let's see here. Today is the day that they had the secret closed meeting of the Fed. And everyone's speculating what they're talking about. My guess is that they're talking about, the collapse of society. No, they're probably talking about raising interest rates, what it's going to mean for things, how they're going to combat that with quantitative easing and anything else. Because they're going to raise interest rates probably in the next month. And when they do... the market's going to go, and everything's going to get hit hard for a day or two. So they're probably trying to figure out exactly how to hedge against all of that. But it's going to be the start of raising interest rates probably monthly or quarterly for the next year. At least until the bottom falls out of the market, and then they'll cut interest rates to spur investment. And that's kind of what they do. Yeah, so... Greg asks, what can the VIX possibly get to if the market crashes? Just wondering because I'm playing to buy more shares before AMC takes off from margin calls. Well, the VIX went up in 2020 in about a month, from February to March 20th when we had the big collapse in the market. The VIX went up about 400% in that month. The calls on that for ETFs that trade kind of tied to the VIX, I have UVXY calls. That particular ETF went from $20 to $900. Let's see here, UVXY. So 5-year max. That is. Yeah. Okay. So, whoops. Let's put the. Chrome. Sorry, I forgot to sign my Chrome again. I always forget to do that. Not that one. Not that one. That one. There we go. Okay. So, this is something that was in the thousands of dollars way back when it was first introduced. But there was a spike, March 2020, of $900. Now, there's been some splits and things for the ETF since then. But each time that there's been a big burp in the market, it climbs to hundreds and hundreds of dollars. And right now we're at $16. So there's a chance that the market takes a big dip. This thing could go to hundreds of dollars. And if you've got calls, you can make quite a bit of money off of that. I've got some March ones and I've got some June ones. I may pick up more if the market has some really good green days and the price goes down again. I may gather some more while I can. But the price could be pretty reasonable on these suckers for calls at the moment. They're at 68 cents right now. They hit $1.04 earlier. So if I had been on top of it, I could have sold and bought back in again and made a pretty penny in the process. But yeah, some of these ETFs that trade via the VIX can do really, really well when the market has a big old hiccup. And son of a mother fudger. But there's everyone's intro again. Okay. Willy Wonka, Houston, feel like we will go to war with Russia and blame them for the collapse of our stock market. We may try to do that. I still think that largely this is Russia doing saber rattling, hoping that they can force a negotiation to drop sanctions against Russia. if the U.S. were to take that seriously, they should probably say, hey, then pull out. Pull back from Crimea, pull back from eastern Ukraine, and then we will remove sanctions. And the Russians say, we're not going to do that. And then we're back at stalemate again. But it seems like that's the case. I don't know how long Russia can sustain keeping their soldiers at the border like this. They are, from what I've been reading, pretty miserable. They're stuck in tents in the mud in the winter. And morale is not very high when you are like trying to keep from getting trench foot walking to and from the mess tent to your tent. So, they're either going to pull the trigger and go or pull back and keep the soldiers happy and warm and fed. Because if you're stuck sleeping in a wet tent covered in mud for weeks at a time, you are not going to be healthy. It's really, 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 really hard to maintain morale for your soldiers if that's the case, especially when they're already getting paid dirt anyway. Spartan, bonjour, Houston. Anything on BBIG? Plus 30% short, 200% interest loan. I'm waiting for BBIG to explode, personally. Is there any news on BBIG today? It's up $3.30. Which is nice. Investor Place 2 hours ago thinks that ARDS and BBIG are going to explode, so they got that going for them. I think BBIG is primed for a big ol' squeeze. They still have to give out the shares as a part of that dividend. I thought that was going to be done in November and then December and then now. So I don't know what they're waiting for on that one. I guess we'll see what they have with quarterlies. But their financials are garbage. Their financials are like absolutely just losing money like crazy. But they've been shorted to shit. And no one's, as far as I can tell, people really aren't selling much. So, they're primed, man. They're coming. Ghost in transit. Are we heading towards hyperinflation or recession? 70s inflation required double-digit interest rates. Will the rate hike this year ever make a dent? Man. The whip inflation now problems that bled into the 80s. You guys ever see the movie Brewster's Millions? With Richard Pryor, one of my favorite movies, but he's charged with he's given an inheritance, and the inheritance has a caveat. He has to spend $1 million a day and gain nothing in order for him to inherit a pile of money. And so it's this hilarious movie of him trying to just like get rid of money, and so he goes to the bank, and the bank's like, oh hey, we can actually put this money into an account for you and it'll make 25% interest. And he's like, no. And if you watch that today, like 25% interest on a savings account, you'd be lucky to get 0.25% today. But yeah, 70s and 80s, you could make insane money just putting your money into a savings account. Forget S&P 500, forget anything with annuities. If you can make 25% on your pile of money every single year just by having it in a bank account, wow. But yes, are we headed towards hyperinflation? No, because I think one of the things that will stave off hyperinflation is the fact that the housing market, I think, is currently in a bubble again. And when that thing pops, there's a huge credit crunch and people can't get money, which means businesses can't get money for payroll loans. They can't get money for quick turnaround on research and development. They can't get money for improving customer experiences and upgrading stores and things like that. So there will be a credit crunch coming when this whole market takes a big old dive. But the response to that oftentimes is print. We print a bunch of money. So I think we're looking at inflation for another year or so. I don't think it'll be hyperinflation. hyperinflation is like what Zimbabwe went through, where by the time they finished printing a new round of banknotes, it was so worthless they had to add 3 more zeros for the next round, and they're printing $500 billion notes and stuff like that. So yeah. Cruel Kind tells me about my introduction. Dang it. Ed, thanks. Love your videos. Thank you, Ed. Pankaj Kumar. Hey, Houston, how does the Fed rate hike control inflation? Would it increase the inflation? Would this rate hike help MOAS to happen or delay? Well, by raising interest rates, you make it harder to borrow. And that's... Interest rates have been like too low for too long. We never raised them back up after we recovered from the housing bubble in 08-09. We kept cutting, spurring more investment, and we never raised it back up. We should have raised it up, 2013 through 2020, really, and cut again when COVID hit. But we didn't. We just didn't. And the Trump administration especially kept cutting, basically because the tax cuts that they passed in 2018, the market went flat for almost 2 years because people weren't spreading the love. So those tax cuts went to the wealthiest people. My taxes doubled from the Trump tax cuts. I went from getting money back when I would file my taxes to owing thousands of dollars. So I did not benefit at all, even though my income did not change in that period of time. I ended up paying more in income taxes, and that sucked. But it benefited the really, 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 really rich people. And then they took that cash and they did stock buybacks to keep their stock prices inflated. But overall, the stock market was very flat from January 2018 on. And then, COVID hit March 2020 and off a cliff. Went down 37% in a matter of days. And that's when the Fed and Treasury started just dumping cash in to stave off basically Great Depression. That's what it hit. So a rate hike helps us in that the rest of the market is going to quiver and stall. When you raise interest rates, you can start to tease people away from the market and into bonds. So there ends up becoming selling happening in the market as people are like, oh, you know what? Interest rates are going up on these bonds over here. I might as well spread the love and put some into these bonds. And so capital will come out of the markets and go into bonds. And that's one of the ways that will help us because when those assets under management drop and we go up, then it can foment margin calls. Peter Vigna. What? If Fund My YouTube will monetize you, but one little tiny bobo and boom, they get it all. What? I'll move on from that one. Resident Flea Houston, how long do you think until the squeeze starts? It's just criminal what's happening. Do you feel that the Gov will offer a price per share being that there's not enough money to cover? I mean, that's always a fear people can have, and they may try to negotiate some sort of settlement. But I think regardless, they're going to have to pay through the nose for these shares. And that's just how it is. It's not just going to be this stock. It's going to be hundreds of stocks that all explode at the same time. And these short hedge funds will not have the cash available to cover it, which is going to fall back on prime brokers and the investment banks. Those guys are going to go under, and those guys are going to have to get saved regardless. So the Fed is going to have to save those banks because those banks are their like bread and butter. That's who owns the Fed. So they're going to have to save them. and eventually pay us. And that's just how it's going to go. Yeah, there's a chance that there could be negotiated settlement and a price per share offered. But I think in the end, that really, really hurts foreign investment in the U.S. And the United States cannot afford to lose the 40% of investment that comes from overseas. That keeps us afloat. We rely on that money because dollars are our biggest export. And if we can't export that cash, then we're screwed as a country. That's when you'll see hyperinflation. Deck P. Sorry, I've covered this already. Did you see the two numbskulls that were caught with 4.5 billion stolen crypto? Yeah. I don't know if they're the ones who stole it, but I think they were trying to launder it for the ones who stole it, and were just doing a terrible job at it. And they are total numbskulls. Word of advice: if you steal billions of dollars in crypto, don't hang out in New York City. Leave. Go somewhere else. Go, I will live a new life in Malaysia or whatever. Just piss off. Do not hang out in New York City. There's other things you can do with your life rather than sit there and get caught. It reminds me of the guy from my hometown. I think I told you about him. He sold hundreds of millions of dollars in stock he wasn't allowed to, and then spent it all in like a year. He bought Formula One teams. He sponsored Shaquille O'Neal. He bought cars, rented office space he never used at $30,000 a month. And when the feds showed up to arrest him, he was sitting on his porch because he had no money left to run. He spent like $250 million in a year, and it was just gone. And when they arrested him, they found like 40 offshore bank accounts, and I think like $40,000 total left in between all 40 of those accounts. And he just didn't have his shit together to, go to Rio or wherever, non-extradition country or something. If you scam for hundreds of millions or billions of dollars, leave. You did it. You made it. You got your victory. Now it's time for you to pay your penance, which is never come back to the United States again and go live like a god king somewhere else. Those two, I think the original was $77 million in Bitcoin was stolen, and today it was worth 4.5 billion by the time that they caught him. So that's some good. That's some good added zeros there, if you ask me. Peter Donnelly, any thoughts on the recent clip showing Vlad blaming Apex for the buy halts during the squeeze? What does that mean for brokers who use Apex during MOAS? Apex is evil. Apex is who funnels everything through Citadel, and Citadel is who delays orders and keeps getting fined for it. And they make billions and billions and billions of dollars by doing that, and then they got fined $700,000. No, don't do that again. For delaying people's orders, sometimes up to months, and just leaving synthetics in people's accounts. If you're with a brokerage that is primarily funneling things through Apex, they're doing payment for order flow. If they're doing payment for order flow, there's a good chance that they can just be absolutely eviscerated when the squeeze happens. And this is because, again, like their payment for order flow is you buy a stock at $100, right? They want to wait a nanosecond for that stock to be available for $99.99 and then pocket the penny. Well, during the baby squeeze, they'd wait that nanosecond, and that $100 stock, all of a sudden, they wait a nanosecond, it'd be $110. So they're losing $10 in every trade. And they might wait another second, and all of a sudden it's at $130. And they go, ah! So that's why they turn off the buy button, because they're losing piles of money in every single trade and just ate through all of their margin. And so Robinhood is about to be margin called because they were losing billions of dollars during the baby squeeze. Because every time Apex would wait a moment to finish a transaction to try and find the best deal, the deal was gone, and it was getting worse and worse while the stock price was rocketing. So that's kind of what you're dealing with. That's why it was Schwab, Webull, Robinhood, was it IB as well? Several others that route things through Apex. They all had to turn off the buy button because they couldn't afford to do those trades. Normally, if the market's going up and down all day long, yeah, it works great. But if you have a moment where the stock price is rocketing and people are buying in because there's FOMO, you're screwed. and none of the customers were selling; they were all buying, and that's where the big problem was. That sometimes they can just kind of swap customers' trades, but no one was selling, and that's where all the problem was coming from. So yeah, I would hope that Robinhood and others have figured out some sort of circuit breaker so that when there's a FOMO squeeze happening, that they don't turn off the buy button. They just direct route the orders and not through Apex or something. Let's go, okay, we can't do payment for order flow right now. We're just going to just straight swap. You have it at 101. They want to buy it at 101. Done. We're not making any money off of this transaction. And they just do that for however many hours it takes until the FOMO is over. Rather than turning off the buy button, that would be a much smarter way for them to go through that. Goes in transit. How does Seattle stay relatively warm, not dip below 30 degrees in the winter for a city that far north? I was there for a bit and I love the fresh seafood. Okay, map time. Woo! Let's Google Earth this sucker. Google Earth. Come here. Oh, there it is. Come on my other monitor. Open up. There we go. Okay. Let's get to Seattle. Ta-da! Okay, so Seattle's got serious trade winds that pretty much happen most of the time coming off the Pacific Ocean. So the Pacific Ocean has two big gyres. One is trade winds blowing from the west, from the western United States, from the eastern side of the Pacific, across the Pacific, goes up the Japan coast, through Gulf of Alaska, and then back down again. So we have cold water currents that come down from Alaska, so it's really cold water up here. And then it warms up by the time it gets to Mexico, and it's nice and tropical, and those currents spread back around to make this kind of convective cycle as they go through. That being said, the predominant wind direction is off the ocean. And the seawater, it's 40, 50 degrees pretty much year-round. And so it's really hard to get lots of cold weather into the Seattle area as a result of those prevailing winds off the coast. And a lot of the storm systems kind of come from the south as they churn up from the south. So they'll spiral this way. And as they come across, they sweep across warmer water and bring that moisture with them. And the other thing keeping things really warm is actually the Rocky Mountains. So the Rocky Mountains make a wall here. So all this cold Arctic air sits up here and has a hard time leaking through and getting through to this part of the Northwest. The closest we'll get is the Fraser River Canyon that comes out of northern British Columbia. And cold air will often follow the channel of this canyon all the way down and then spill out into Vancouver and Bellingham through the Fraser River Valley in here, this big old delta that's in here. And that will sometimes bring really cold air that can spill through Puget Sound, depending on if we're getting big offshore flow during a high pressure system. So when we get snow, it's usually because cold air came down this valley, this canyon, and then out into Puget Sound. And then we'll have a system from the ocean meet that cold air, and that's when we get our snowfall. And once or twice a year, and then once every decade or so, it'll be freakish, and we'll get feet and feet of snow. But those are the two large geographic features: is the wall of Rocky Mountains blocking this cold air from northern Canada. So that's why you get to North Dakota, it can be minus 40, but you come across to where we are, and it'll be 50 degrees. Because warm air off the ocean and mountains blocking that cold air. That's the big reason. Yeah. And if the gyre changes and switches direction for some reason, we might be freakishly warm. I don't know. But that's kind of how it rolls. I remember I was working in this restaurant on the waterfront, and this couple was asking, like, why aren't any of your boats in storage? Because they're from Boston. Everyone takes their boats out of the harbor and puts them on land because, the harbor can freeze over and crack people's boats. Harbor hasn't frozen over in Puget Sound in 9,000 years, so we don't have to worry about that. Not since the last ice age, I think. Okay. Bing. Good question, though. Good question. And the seafood is delicious here. The reason why a whole bunch of famous sushi chefs from Japan come to Seattle and open up restaurants, because this is where a lot of the seafood comes to first. Jason Blackwell. Hey, Houston, picked up some more MMTLP this morning. The bird lady is super knowledgeable once you get past the fact that she has completely lost her mind. Yeah, she does deep dives into metamaterials, and especially like looking at what the Oregon Day lands are like, what the oil's like, what the prices can go for. She's doing lots of comparative sales that are happening right now, where land that's half the size of the core of the oil is selling for $1 billion, and so there could be some serious money to be made off those MMTLP shares at this point. Lemon Monkey Houston, in the Second World War, proximity fuse was a game changer. What tech do you think will be significant in the battlefield if there will be a worldwide conflict? Man. Drones, robots. That's going to be significant technology. If you don't have to put soldiers in harm's way, you won't. You will use robots to do all that stuff. And electronic warfare, I think, can get really dirty. For the most part, the United States has been fighting folks that are technologically inferior for a long time. And so it's been a lot more guerrilla warfare style, IEDs, ambushes, stuff like that. But when faced with a technologically advanced adversary, I think there'll be a lot more electronic warfare, hacking, false alarms, weapons malfunctioning, things like that that's going to happen that are going to be a lot more sci-fi. I'm sure people who are better military experts than I can think of more crazy ways that this stuff will go. Hey, monkey butt, where'd you go? Monkey, come on. Come on. There she comes. All right. What are you doing? Why are you ditching me? Get your butt up here. Come on. Come on. Hang out. That's your one job. Yeah. Keep a roof over your head that way. There we go, buddy. Yeah. Here are you, good dog. Come on, lay down. Lay down. Want to go underneath? We can go underneath. There you go. Okay. Yes, young Padawan. Okay. You're like, I was so comfortable in the other bed. That's okay. You be comfortable there. Parataran, Houston, how's it hanging? In your personal gut feeling, do you think next February-March jump is going to be the tinder for the larger wood stack? MOAS can't be more than 6 months out, right? I think the market has a lot of correcting to do. And, all the big banks have been saying, hey, expect a correction of 20% or more, and we have not gotten there yet. Every time it starts to get bad, they're like, "Bah!" and everyone makes it go back up again for some reason. I forget, what was the stat? Someone was showing me the natural rise of the market right now, that the market is like 62% above what the expected natural rise of the market would be post housing bubble. And so, the market should have been going like this, and instead it's going like this. And so there's a huge difference between, the fundamentals where the market should be and where we're trading now. And we've got like a 62% gap between those two things. That is a big difference. And right now, since we've got inflation happening, the value of the dollar is less. So if you have stock in a company, you might see, the value rise not due to fundamentals of the company rising, but because the dollar is weaker and therefore it takes more dollars to buy that stock. So we may see like pumps of price due to that inflation until everything, the house of cards comes down. Just like if the dollar's weaker, buying a gallon of gasoline is going to cost you more dollars. Therefore, the value of gasoline has gone up, or so it appears, as a result of that inflation. But yeah, I don't think any of this stuff should be more than 6 months. I think they delayed the inevitable so long that each day that it doesn't happen, the worse it's going to be. There's like sepsis happening in a wound, and we're just ignoring it, going, it's just a gut shot. I'm fine. I'll be fine. I'm fine. Don't need to take me to a doctor. And meanwhile, like turds are going through your bloodstream and things are getting worse. But yeah, that's the way I'm seeing it. Javier says, Bird Lady, is dropping knowledge about the oil grounds here in Texas. So yeah, the Oro Grande. I don't actually know exactly where the Oro Grande oil fields are. Let me look that up real quick. Let's go there. I know it's in Texas, but I actually never looked at the university lands to see for sure. Oops. Not Pre-Grande. Pre-Grande. Grande University lands. Texas. No, not Oregon. University lands. 2.1 million acres across West Texas. Let's look at that. This is where it is. Give me a map. Give me a map. Oh, out here. Okay, there it is. So it is, if we go 2.1 million acres, basically north of Big Bend in that area. Okay. All right. That helps. If you guys can't see very well, let's go bring up the Google Earth again. So there's basically 2.1 million acres sort of from here to here that's spread out, that's owned by the University of Texas. And that's where those oil leases are. 2.1 million acres is pretty decent size. That's a lot of land spread out through there. It's owned by the University of Texas. So the University of Texas must lease this stuff out and make money that way to help pay for colleges and whatnot. Yeah, so there you go. Javi asking thoughts on the Fed meeting. I talked about a little bit ago. I think mostly they're talking about raising rates, what the outfall is going to be, and if and how they're going to mitigate that outfall. Because the market will go red upon the raising of rates. Every time you raise rates, it's going to entice people out of the market and into bonds. Because if you're buying bonds, right? If you're buying bonds and municipal bonds, that wealth is untaxed. So while the interest rates may be very low on such bonds, if you can do it untaxed, that's a great way to hold your wealth and not have to worry about the tax man and things like that. So yeah, that's kind of that's one of the reasons why the market will go red. People will just sell their stock and go into bonds instead. Cruel Kind. Houston, what would be your take on possibly sending information back in time once the receiver transmitter could be created? I don't know how it would work, but information might be easier to do than like matter. We talked about time travel in here before and how it's kind of impossible. Namely because if you could send someone back in time, you could not guarantee that they would end up like at that point on Earth in that period of time, because the Earth is dynamic. It's going around the sun. That sun is going around a galaxy. And so anytime you pick to go backwards in time, you're going to end up in the vacuum of space somewhere where the Earth will be in tens or hundreds of years. And that'll be a bummer. Just be like freezing to death out in space. So yeah. But yeah, be able to send information backwards in time, that might be a game changer if you could set up some sort of walkie-talkie. There's interesting, I can't remember if it was a Next Generation or it might have been Voyager, Star Trek, about a wormhole having communication with some Romulan who was at the end of a wormhole, and that wormhole was, transmitting information back 30 years or something. And so they were having real-time conversation with somebody from 30 years ago, and they ended up like stopping a war as a result because they corrected wrong information and saved lives, whatever. That might be kind of handy. It'd be really nice to like, get a printout and be like, yeah, you guys shouldn't have done that. That really screwed up the future. Be like, oh, maybe we can rectify that before that bad stuff happens. Angel Flores, happy Valentine's Day. Happy birthday. Ooh, happy day. Michael Pisco, Haitian, a long-time listener, first-time caller. Navy's making advancements in superconductor tech, claiming it's for the good of humanity. Thoughts? Well, superconductors are awesome. Our goal is to find a room temperature superconductor, something that doesn't take a whole bunch of energy because you have to suck all the energy out of it. So someday, maybe, we might find a room temperature superconductor. And if that's the case, then we can do electricity transmission through all of that. Right now we have It takes a lot of energy to create these superconductors. He's got to chill them down to, an appreciable degree above absolute zero or so to make them work. To get those electrons free flowing, so it's like in a metallic state. But yeah, I think it's going to be for the good of humanity. I'm not necessarily sure how they could weaponize that stuff, but it makes things cheaper. Let's do it. And Moser, what do you think about Russian and Chinese partnership? I mean, it's nefarious. And it's a way for Russia to get hard currency, because China can get euros and then give those euros to Russia for the oil and gas. And China needs oil and gas. So, and they're right there across the border. So it makes sense geopolitically and geographically for them. They don't trust each other. They're, despite the fact that even during Soviet times, despite the fact they were both communist, and they didn't like each other. There's been a lot of distrust there. But right now, they've got a common perceived enemy, which is the West. Russia needs our hard currency, and China needs our consumers. So they need us. So anytime the sabers rattle and war is inevitable, we can pull our hard currency from both those markets and just stop buying Chinese goods. And that might make China go on a warpath, because they need our cash. They need us as customers. But right now it makes sense for them for sure to partner up, because Russia needs the hard currency and China needs the fuel. Makes sense. Also, China wants to be able to invade Taiwan, and they definitely want to see what our reaction is to Russia invading Ukraine. If we put our foot down and we don't let them get into Ukraine, then China might go, oh, okay, it might be harder to take Taiwan if that's the case. If we just lay down and let them steamroll Ukraine, then China's go, sweet, Taiwan is ours. And yeah. So there's a lot kind of resting, I think, in all of that. Coots, Alberta, during the truck blockade, the RCMP arrested 11 people and a cache of guns and ammo. One tried to run RCMP off the road. Your opinion? I don't agree with trucker protests at all, so that's my main opinion. I do think that they've largely been organized by far-right actors and by foreign actors. People have traced the websites used to organize the rallies to Bulgaria, Philippines, Russia. One of the main accounts that organized most of the protests belonged to a housewife in Colorado, and her account was hacked more than a year ago, and she lost access to it. And that account changed from like pictures of her kids to far-right organizations organizing marches and protests and January 6th rallies and whatnot. And so now this account is probably hacked by a foreign intelligence service, be my guess, and is being used, weaponized to get the people active. I mean, think about, you've got a nation like Russia that doesn't have cash. They bled cash dry. They took most of the money and wealth out of the country. What wealth they took out of the country is frozen due to sanctions, so they don't have access to a lot of it. A lot of their nation is their economy shrinking. They might be able to sustain somewhat of a traditional war footing, but they can't afford to keep it up for very long, and so they have to figure out death by 1,000 cuts on anyone else out there who could challenge them. And that would largely be, let's spread a bunch of anti-vax information. They've been spreading anti-vax information for a decade now, hoping that Americans weaken themselves and die from preventable illnesses. And then they, tried to get the U.S. out of NATO during the Trump administration. They spend a lot of time and money getting Republican senators and legislators and representatives on their side via laundering money through the NRA. I mean, they laundered like $80 million through the NRA into the campaigns of these folks. You had ladies like Maria Butina, who was sleeping with all of them. She was a honeypot. You've got several honeypots, Russian honeypots that were being used then. You have the wife of Madison Cawthorn, was a Russian honeypot. They're just getting divorced now. The lady who married, what's that guy's name? George, no. Was one of Trump's advisors. He ended up meeting a lady in Italy who was Russian, and then marrying her, and what was the name? Papadopoulos, something like that. And there's quite a few honeypots going on out there. And then you have a lot of the organizing of these far right groups are happening through these websites that are owned and controlled by foreign actors. If the website that's calling for protests in France or in Canada or in the U.S. is being done through a Philippines website, that's not organic. That is hostile foreign nation meddling with the populace, and because they're using our freedom of speech laws against us by jumping in there. And there's a lot of people out there who just don't know how to vet information, and they fall for it. They're like, yeah, I'm gonna go protest, and meanwhile it's completely organized by foreign actors. They're like, yes, go ruin your own supply chain. And that's what they're acting on right now. So yeah, they're totally easily manipulated by foreign propaganda, and it's quite phenomenal. I mean, when Cambridge Analytica, when it was revealed Cambridge Analytica had taken information from 100 million Facebook users, who did they sell the information to? Russia. Right? That's exactly who they sold it all to. That's who got all that data, was the RIS in Russia. And so if you were one of those banner ads came across on Facebook, and it's like, convert the heathen by slapping them with a Bible, and you're clicking on that, they're taking your information and they're selling it to foreign intelligence services. And that was the big thing that Cambridge Analytica did, was they didn't just take the data from Facebook, is that they sold it to foreign nations. Okay. Okay, that's the back in time one. That's the Navy one. That's Chinese partnership. Oh, and of course, just reset, you stinky little fart face. Okay. Chris R says market makers aren't required to borrow or report borrow. It's true. Not until 2025. So if right now they can borrow and do whatever they want and not have to report any of it. But hopefully in 2025 they make it happen. Okay, J-Dog got some coordinates for us. Where are you gonna send me, J-Dog? This looks like the desert here in the west somewhere. 112 degrees. Let's find out where we're going. Go in the desert. We're going to Arizona. We're going to the Grand Canyon. Going near the Grand Canyon. We're going to the observation rim of the Grand Canyon. Park operations, South Rim, Grand Canyon Depot. There it is. Hike all the switchbacks, get down to that trail at the bottom, and then go, oh, now I got to go back up. That's going to suck. But yeah, Grand Canyon's beautiful. Beautiful place. I think I've actually been to that part of Grand Canyon Village. There's probably pictures of me there somewhere from 20 years ago on a film. I've been to Grand Canyon. I've been driven past the Grand Canyon, but I haven't been there in quite a while. It's gorgeous there, though. If you have a chance to go to the Grand Canyon, go to the Grand Canyon. I do want to river raft the Grand Canyon one of these days. I have never done that. I've had lots of friends who worked as river guides, and it just sounds like a lot of fun. Yes. Awesome. Okay. Barkboo says Bird Lady's rad. M. Mosler, what will likely happen when Russia treat crypto like a currency, maybe force Europe to regulate crypto? Well, I mean, if you watched Super Bowl yesterday, you saw there was like a cajillion ads for cryptocurrency. Now, does the US dollar need to have ads? Do you need to have like commercials like, use US dollars, invest in US dollars? No, you don't. And a large reason why you're seeing ads for crypto is that 10% of all the crypto holders hold over 99% of crypto. And they need you to jump in a FOMO kind of way to buy their crypto from them so they can keep making a whole bunch more fiat currency out of it. They're looking for that greater fool. And it's a greater fool theory. So that's why you're seeing tons of advertisements of, hey, invest in crypto, because they need somebody else to take all this stuff off their hands. And that's going to be you. Now, someday there may be a use for crypto as a currency, but right now you're not going to use crypto to buy anything. Because if you use it to buy a pizza, you're going to discover a year from now that you may have spent $1 million on that pizza. So the use of crypto as an actual currency is not there yet. They will complain about fiat all they want, but you'll notice that they compare the value of all crypto to fiat. That's what they use. That's what they want for it. That's what they use to buy stuff is fiat currency. And you're not going to be able to escape that. That's one of those things. So it's purely speculative, and they need the bigger fool because there's a huge number of crypto holders out there who have to divest in order to get that sweet cash. And if they don't have new people jumping in, then they don't have people to sell it to. And that's one of the big problems is that not enough people, I think, are continually jumping in going, oh yeah, crypto. And there's going to be some bottom that falls out of crypto at some point. It's happened twice in the last year where crypto dropped 50% in a matter of days. It's climbing back up again. But remember, it's that canary in a coal mine that when facing margin calls, you will see crypto just plummet. And that's the days that they're desperately trying to generate cash in order to hold on to their margin. Just in my head, thoughts on Clara Ferreira Marquez article on solar geoengineering and blotting out the sun to combat climate change. Bond villain level terrifying. I have not read that yet, but isn't that what Mr. Burns did once? I do think that one of the things that we'll probably try and do is put particulates in the atmosphere to limit the amount of sunlight making it to the surface, basically kind of create a false nuclear winter as a result. I wouldn't doubt if someone goes ahead and tries that. Man, it is Bond villain-esque. It'd be easier just to plant a kajillion trees and start slurping CO2 out of the atmosphere, and limiting our use of CO2. We're going to get to some do or die time not too long from now, and that's going to be trouble for everyone. I think we're going to be facing some uh-ohs there. Woper says, "Am I the only one seriously lagging?" I have no idea. You might be. I'm looking on my live stream. It doesn't look like I have very high def coming out right now, so maybe I am producing a bit low, but it says my connection is excellent, which is, rare for me. So, I don't know, I might be the only one. Everton says there's a position available in geoscience education pedagogy at the University of Oslo. I would love to move to Oslo. Oslo's expensive though. I hope it pays well. I don't have my PhD yet, so that's the problem. Is that I've dropped out of one PhD program and then was supposed to start another, and then COVID hit. So I've not done a dissertation. If they want to give me a stipend for a dissertation, I'd think about it. I could totally talk about Earth all day long. And Moser, why don't we just take the war and push it into the metaverse? Isn't that what Battlefield 2042 is all about? Call of Duty. We'll have the best Russians in Call of Duty play the best Americans in Call of Duty in a best of 13 series, and then that's who gets to have Ukraine. How about that? Works for me. Michael Pisco. Houston, a long time, first time. Oh, that's the U.S. Navy one. Yeah, I already did that one. I did that one, Michael. Okay. Before morning, Houston, wishing you a good week. Meantime, did you have a chance to listen to my band Mojave? God damn, I didn't listen to them. Sorry, man. I have it on my list, and I didn't do my list this weekend. Mojave All-Stars, I got it here. I want to show's over, Euphoria. I'm listening to it. I'm sorry. I'm going to get there. I totally forgot. That's my fault. Flip there through. Do you think they're holding the VIX back? I mean, the VIX is runs counter to the SPY. So SPY goes up, VIX goes down. SPY goes down, VIX goes up. So what I think they're doing is they're artificially keeping the blue chips up here when they should have correcting. And that's the one thing keeping the VIX from going bonkers. They had a really hard time doing that in March 2020 because COVID was hitting and everything was shutting down, and the supply chain was going to halt. Tourism was stopping. People weren't going to be leaving their homes. It was really hard to justify not collapsing the entire market then, because everyone was like, the world's going to end. And then they flooded trillions and trillions of dollars into the market, and that's what kept everything afloat. And now we're suffering from the inflation as a result. And that inflation isn't all necessarily specifically inflation. A lot of it is supply chain issues, and a lot of it is supply and demand. And so if supply is down and demand is up, it's going to cost more for that stuff. And if you drive by a car dealership right now, you're going to see there's very few cars in the lot, because cars are not getting made at the same rates they were before, because they don't have the microchips that they need to put in the computer systems for these cars. And so because the supply chain is completely failing on all these microprocessors. And so, for a while, Ford was announcing they're going to build the cars anyway and just wait for the chips to show up. And they're going to ship them to the dealers, let the dealers put the computer chips in there. I'm not sure how well that worked out in the end. But yeah, you drive past a car dealership right now, and it is pretty slim pickings for what's available. How far behind? I'm only 40 minutes behind, guys. We're getting there. Josh Dobbs, I consider myself a big fan of music. Just when I think I've heard it all, I recommend Mother Love Bone. I can't stop listening. Stargazer is a great... Oh, dude, Mother Love Bone is incredible. Again, I was 7 years old when I got to see them live at Bumbershoot. I might be the youngest person who ever saw Mother Love Bone live. I don't know if there's anyone younger than me there. But yeah, Andy Wood would have been like one of the greatest lead frontmen of all time. That dude had so much presence. Just don't do heroin, guys. Heroin ruins everything and cuts lives short and makes things sad, and you lose out on great artists. Stay away from H. Karen Mirza, they're a little late to the party. Starbucks anti-union propaganda website just dropped, and it's gross as hell. Yeah, I mean, it's pretty phenomenal the lengths these groups will go to avoid unionization of their workers, and they will spend fortunes. They will spend so much money on these anti-union consultants. There's a lot of these firms out there. John Oliver had a great episode on the anti-union stuff a couple months ago. If you go back and look at the John Oliver thing, they kind of outline all this. But they will make websites. They will plant people in the specific stores to badmouth unions. They will, like the stuff that was happening with Amazon and their unionization of one of their warehouses in Alabama. And they discovered that they set up fake ballot drop boxes, that they did all sorts of stuff so that they can keep you had to have a certain number of votes, and I guess not enough of those votes came in because they had fake ballot drop boxes everywhere. So there's all sorts of shady stuff they'll use to keep from unionizing. And then then they'll pass the right to work states, which are basically they can fire you at will and without any reason or just cause, and makes unionization really hard. But they'll spend a fortune to avoid paying people a living wage and giving them benefits. And just have your happy workers, man. If you're going to hire somebody, pay them a living wage. I don't care what the job is. If you need the job done, you pay them a living wage to do that work. That's a no-brainer. And in America, we really, really, really try hard not to pay people what they're worth. And then we've got huge problems. and as a result, and then now we're having, right now the what do they call it? The great quitting. What's the term that they were using for that? Where everyone's like quitting. Like millions of people are quitting their jobs every month because they're like, what? Screw you, man. I'm out of here. And they're finding right now, because some people have left the workspace because of early retirement, because of their moms taking care of kids during COVID, because they are injured from COVID, because the businesses shut down, they found new careers, they've discovered they can do OnlyFans and make a fortune or whatever. People have left the workforce in droves. Millions and millions and millions of more people than expected have left the workforce. So there's openings like crazy. And if you want to leave your work and get a higher paying job, it's right there for you. You can say, you know what, I'm not going to work in this kitchen anymore. I'm going to become a salesman for this wine distributor, or I'm going to work customer service for this tech company or whatever. Like, there's so many opportunities out there right now for you to upgrade your life and pay, that anyone who's trying to keep you down is definitely going to lose that battle. All those folks that currently work at a Starbucks that's trying to unionize, they can get a better paying job elsewhere like that. And Starbucks is going to discover that they're going to have more Starbucks than people willing to work at Starbucks. Heck, there was an article that came out last week that Amazon is worried they have treated their warehouse workers so poorly and gone through so many of them that they're going to run out of people to work in warehouses in the entire country, because they just chew them up and spit them out. And once someone, has worked for Amazon and been treated like garbage or got fired, they might not be allowed to get hired, or might not be willing to come back. And so a lot of communities where these big Amazon warehouses are running out of a pool of people to hire. That is a very weird problem to create yourself, because you're being an asshole to your workers. Right? If you make their lives so miserable that there's going to be no one left. Great resignation. Thank you. That's the word I was looking for. You make lives so miserable that all of a sudden you just won't have anybody that can work for you anymore. What a weird self-generated problem that is. All because you need this person, they need 15 seconds between grabbing an item and putting on a conveyor belt, or else they're going to get fired. And then their average is 17 seconds and you fire them. Well, next guy, what's the chances are the next guy who comes in does it in 15 seconds and not 17 seconds? Very low. So, then you got another guy got to fire him. You got to fire him. So you're asking stuff that is basically physically impossible of people. And when they don't meet those physically impossible demands, you get rid of them. And all of a sudden, you're just not going to have any more people you can hire to do that job anymore. We read about it all the time about, some restaurant closes because the entire waitstaff just quit. They're like, screw you, man, I'm out of here. And they leave. And then the owner will be like, oh, I've never seen such disloyalty in my entire life. And no one wants to work anymore. People want to work. They just don't want to work for you. And that is a big difference. You don't pay enough. You treat them like dirt. You don't give them benefits. Why on earth should they work for you if you're mean and a cheapskate and their life is miserable and they've got other options out there? If you want to work in a restaurant, you can work in any restaurant in the country right now and probably find one that treats you better than you currently have right now, because we are so short on workers. Not only are we short on workers that are American because of the Great Resignation, but because of our xenophobic anti-immigration laws, we no longer have the flood of workers from overseas and from down south flooding to America, filling up all these kitchen jobs. And so just in the Seattle area, we are short in just kitchen workers over 50,000 people in just the Seattle area. And it used to be you'd go into a restaurant and you'd hear in the kitchen just like Mexican mariachi music playing all the time. But all those dudes are gone. They went back to Mexico. They're like, screw you. We're not going to deal with this crap anymore. And they are also participating in the Great Resignation. Why wouldn't they want to go back down and hang out with their family if they're going to be treated like dirt and not get paid up here? So, yeah, it's join the union, stick it to the man, make a good living. That's my opinion on that one. Okay. Mike Millspaw, Houston, any comments? Texas sues Meta over Facebook's facial recognition practices. State says social media giant violated privacy protection, seeks hundreds of billions of dollars in civil penalties. Whoa, I had not read that one yet. Good. Good. Suck it, Facebook. Or Meta, or whatever you want to call yourselves. They are really taking it on the nose right now. And what their stock do today? I bet it was down again. Why not? Back to there. Where are you? Where are you, Meta? Scrolling down. There it is. Down to 217. Woo, boy. And it had a low of 215 today. So it was at 379 just a few months ago. It's lost, man, 40% of its value in just past few months. Yeah, Facebook, you done shit the bed on that one. Man, if you've got Texas soon, you know there's something wrong. Because Texas is all about businesses doing whatever the heck they want. And if the Texas AG is after you, ooh, that's not good. Okay. Keith Davis, thoughts on short-term future of Metamaterial? I believe in the tech and GP. Do you think that they can shake the shorts and grow organically? How much do you think shares will be worth medium to long term without shorts? I think it's easily double-digit stock without the shorts participating. They should have their main new facility done sometime this year and start outputting product in, meaningful quantities after that. I mean, the big boys are projecting them to be a $10 billion a year company, which would probably put their stock price in the hundreds of dollars by then, considering the size of their how many shares issued and what the float is. Only about 20% of the stock is in the float. The rest of it is held by insiders. So it's a very small float. In the end, it should be worth a lot more than it is right now. It's coming. I mean, once they start turning profit and making more money, because right now it's speculative, right? They've got all these patents, but they haven't been able to produce the products in any meaningful way because they're waiting to finish their factory. So right now, a lot of what's being done is technically licensed to other companies, Samsung and whoever. But they're able to, they'll print out this mesh. They'll be used for all sorts of things, for Faraday cages, for antennas, for keeping windows defrosted. Their film that they're gonna be putting on things will, your cell phone screen will become will have a film printed on it, and that film won't just protect the glass, but will also be the antenna. So your cell phone will get lighter and have better reception. The antenna for your radio or your GPS will become the screen of your car or the sheet metal, because that stuff will be printed on there. So there's a lot of uses that they'll have, and that stuff will also have heating coil elements put through it, and it will be completely invisible to your naked eye, but will keep your window defrosting at all times. Be pretty cool stuff. So there's real-time applications, and they'll start to have lots of customers. Elevated finance. If retail was smart, they would gather in collective groups and hive mind about how to bleed these funds of the most liquidity and attack while they are weak. Nah, sit and wait something to happen. Well, the problem is that if retail got together and did that stuff, they would get arrested for market manipulation. The hedge funds can do it all they want. They can manipulate all day long, and SEC won't do anything about it. But they will get you for sure. That's one problem, their elevated finance. That's one of their superpowers they have over us. Cater King, Houston. I know you think GME is bigger play. I have some as well. But since AMC's option chain has essentially dried up, do you think it still squeezes? Oh, AMC will definitely squeezes. AMC will squeeze. It just depends on how much and what the reaction of the board is when it squeezes. If all of a sudden they're dumping shares again when there's price action, then, that might suppress price. And it's where we are. Javi A. Houston, I had 2 notifications today regarding GME from the latest one from the SEC Maverick Capital, Schedule 13GA. Any thoughts? I did not get those notices, so I don't know. I can't give an opinion on that. I'm sorry, Javi. I'll have to read that later and find out. Eric Hayes, Houston, have you watched the anonymous video to Kenny Boy? No. Lots of people would tell me about it, but I have not seen the video yet. I'll have to look that up also. Keith Davis. Was our economy headed for a massive recession right before the pandemic when the Fed injected trillions into 4 banks, some of which were involved with the '08 crash? Yeah, we were headed towards a depression. Matter of fact, it may have technically been a depression because we shrank so much over 2 quarters that, we may call it a recession, but technically you get to numbers like that, it's a depression. You lose that many jobs all at once and you lose that much of your GDP like that. Yeah, I think you're good. Daphne, do you think it's too late to get into BBIG? No. BBIG's cheap right now. I mean, their high this year was $12 and change, and right now it's what, $3? So I don't think it's too late. I mean, I bought at 6, and so I'm still sitting waiting for it to go back up again. I bought the wrong time. I should have waited, I guess. But I wanted to get recorded for that dividend, and that's why I bought. Missy Mills, Portugal has no crypto tax. Interesting. And Madeira is beautiful. I have thought about Portugal. I'm trying to convince my dad to do his retirement there, because all he does is complain about the weather here, and he's always wanted to go. So maybe this summer we'll take a trip and go check out Portugal. And I end up in Portugal all the time when I'm playing GeoGuessr. And it's a gorgeous country. And my dad likes to sail. It can be very nice and warm there. The ocean can be wonderful. He can sell his crappy manufactured home here for way too much money and buy an amazing villa. Heck, let's just for a moment fantasize about what type of place we can afford in Portugal. How about that? Why not? Portugal real estate. Let's just go there. See what we get. Oh, turn you off. There we go. All right, property sale in Portugal. Ideal home, Portugal. So right now, my dad could probably sell his manufactured home. It's a 50-year-old double wide, basically. Plop down a foundation. He could probably sell it here in Bainbridge for $800,000, and no one would blink at that because that's just what the home prices are. So here we got big giant mansions and manors. Okay, cool. Let's put in. Let's list it. I got to order it lowest price. Okay. Commercial space. Let's get to like a meaningful home. 3 bedroom, 3 bath, 181,000 euros, so like 200,000 US. Not bad. 1 bedroom. Let's get to that medium range here. See what we got. Condos, villas, apartment, 1 bedroom, 2 bedroom, 2 bedroom. These are all condos, but there were some villas popping up earlier that were quite nice. Leave me alone. I don't want an apartment. My dad's not gonna live in an apartment. He wants to mow a lawn. He loves mowing lawns. 4-bedroom villa, 300,000. Yeah, not too shabby. 4-bedroom villa, 300,000. That's very doable. Very doable. Come on. 4-bedroom villa with a pool, 380. So my dad could sell his crappy double wide, move to someplace warm, get a pool. It's got 4 bedrooms and 3 baths. And then he could afford a 40-foot sailboat and be the happiest old 85-year-old man in the entire world and go sailing around for the rest of his days. I think it's very much something that he should do and stop bitching about the weather in Seattle. Josh Pepels, Tennessee. Hey, brother. So with the rest of Memphis. Hey, bud. How's it going? I hope Tennessee and all the animals are helping you out right now. Okay, and yes, Madeira is beautiful. The woulda, coulda, shouldas in life. We'll see what we do here. And as long as I got internet, I can do this show from anywhere. Monkey doesn't care where she goes, right? You don't care. The cat doesn't care. Put the books in a bunch of boxes, stick them in a shipping container, and boom, right? Yeah, she knows. Ham Fingers, Houston, why can't the hedge funds keep this going indefinitely? because the hedge funds have been losing money year over year for the past several years. They are doing very poorly. They don't have much they can play with left anymore. Their customers are leaving them and forming family funds. Their margin is really tight. They might, have a windfall here and there, but that windfall doesn't last them very long, and they use it to hammer the price back down, which just digs the hole deeper for them. Eventually, they're going to run out, and especially when their prime brokers and investment banks can't keep them afloat anymore. That stuff is going to get, yeah. Okay, I'm an hour behind the chat. Sorry about that, guys. That's always what's happening. Carlos R is saying hi from Jersey. Hello, Carlos. And everyone's all how joyful about the second intro. I'm glad you guys like that. Lexington Productions, Houston. Around the point during the squeeze, should we really start paying attention and entering in limit orders? Go Mariners, have birthday. I'm mostly in Fidelity. So Fidelity did raise the ability. I think they made it, 500% or something? From 50% higher for listing, which, we're still a long ways away from where I could list or want to list. So we need to get to, $20,000 price for me to list at $100,000. So it's going to be a while until I can start listing limits to do my ladder sales plan. But if you are in one of those brokerages, I can't remember which ones that let you go up to $10 million. I think SoFi is one of them. Might as well just throw those numbers in there now and see what happens. And we think that kind of removes it from the ability to lend out too. It locks everything up if you have a limit sale going. So why not try it if you are in one of those brokerages that can do that? Meow meow. What do you think of the Tonga eruption dropping the world average temperature? The math says it will be more effective than Krakatoa. It depends on how much ash went out. It's significantly less ash than Pinatubo, but Pinatubo did drop global temperatures in the northern hemisphere. Tonga would largely drop global temperatures in the southern hemisphere because it's really hard for air to break that equator barrier because the way air rises and redistributes from the equator. But yeah, there's a lot of debris got thrown up in that volcanic eruption. So it'd be good for Australia and South Africa and those folks that get just hammered in the summertime to have a little more particulates in the atmosphere cooling things off a bit, I bet. But yeah, it probably will be more effective. I'm not sure if it'll be more effective than Krakatoa. I don't know how much ash came out of Krakatoa specifically. But again, a good book to read. Where'd I put it? Is that it? Nope, that's food. Simon Winchester's Krakatoa, wherever it is. I'm not sure where that book is. It's a great book to read about the outfall of that volcanic eruption in 1883. It's pretty spectacular. And it was such big news because it was really the first natural disaster after the invention of the telegraph. So within hours, everyone around the world knew what had happened. And they actually knew what had happened before they heard the boom halfway around the world. Remember that boom from Krakatoa went around the world 4 times. So, he could have been some farmer in the middle of Saskatchewan and just heard boom. Been like, what the hell was that? And then 15 hours later, boom again. What the hell? So it's pretty remarkable. Richard Pestick, Houston, did you see how Sens got FDA approval and the stock tanked immediately? Thought the FDA approval would be a good thing for the stock. That might be one of those buy on rumors, sell on news type things. So as the rumors were building that they're going to get FDA approval, people buy in, and the minute the news gets released, they dump. That might be one of those things. It happens a lot with earnings. The rumors are the earnings will be really good, and so everyone starts buying in on the rumors. The earning report comes out and it's magnificent and everyone sells. Excuse me. And then, the next quarter they'll do the same thing and go right back up again. I think that's one of those things that's Buy on rumors, sell on news. Missy Mills, it's snowing in Boston. No, 6 to 8 inches. Good amount of snow. Anna Rulnick says Bird Lady is an oil stock savant. There you go. PAL Guitar says great picture and sound. All right, we upgraded our life, and got the monkey cam so you can see our little butt at all times, right, monkey butt? Yeah. His eyes just go, quit touching me. All right, we're flying through here. I'm still 50 minutes behind, so we got that going. Georgie says the MMTLP shares that were converted from Torch merger are the ones who receive dividends. The MMTLP shares bought post-merger will not receive dividends. If someone can prove me otherwise, please. As far as I know, there are no MMTLP shares that were created post-merger. But if they were, you wouldn't receive a dividend. You would receive a payment in lieu, a PIL. Whoever generated that synthetic share will be responsible for paying you the amount of the dividend. If they don't, then they get margin called and face forced liquidation by the brokerages. So if you have MMTLP shares in your account, when a dividend is announced, you will get money for it, whether it's from the sale of that oil field or from whatever hedge fund created the naked share that went in that account. That's what's going to happen. Dennis says, Houston, you said in December that when there isn't some sort of squeeze in January, we should be looking at what the other things shorts are doing to not let it happen. And we saw a lot of that in the last month. We saw them dump crypto like crazy. We saw them take on new investments from weird groups. Why a venture capital firm is investing billions of dollars into Citadel. Very strange bedfellows. And we saw the really weird plays with tech stocks 2 weeks ago, where they obviously had a bunch of puts on them, crashed the price, cashed in those puts, bought a bunch of calls, and then jacked the price right back up again. And I bet they generated billions off of doing that play. And it was straight market manipulation. That action alone should have warranted arrests across all sorts of hedge funds by the SEC. So they are getting into very dangerous territory right now, I think, with how they're manipulating prices of various stocks in order to make these quick short plays. And we saw in the fall them doing weird things like pumping the value of Berkshire Hathaway after hours by 20%, $100,000 a share or whatever. And that way, when market opened, if you had assets under management that included Berkshire Hathaway, all of a sudden your assets look fantastic, right? You have 100 shares of Berkshire Hathaway and it just went up 20%. You got plenty of margin room. We're not going to liquidate you. And then the trading day, go right back down again, and they would jack it up again after hours. All it takes is one fractional sale of Berkshire Hathaway stock can rocket that price. So if you've got a couple $100,000 cash on hand, you can have your buddy sell it to you or vice versa, and you can collude and rocket that price. Doobie Wah, shouldn't we expect meme stock price to start rising as March 3rd approaches? I mean, we should always expect them to be rising at all times because that's what they should be doing. But we are, they always have some trick up their sleeve to generate a whole bunch of more extra margin. And with those three plays they've done, the dumping of tech stocks, the addition of investment from venture capital firms, and the dumping of crypto, they probably raised $90 billion in margin collectively with those actions. And so you got $90 billion in margin. That gives you a lot of ability to short things back down again. But remember, every time they short, all they're doing is they're digging the hole deeper in the end. It might help them last for a day and win the battle for the day, but it's exhausting their available capital in the end. Lawrence Demina, sorry. Just in Department of Justice investigating banks and hedge funds for block trades. Check Wall Street Journal. Ooh. DOJ. Block trade. Right there, 1 hour ago. Okay. Bam. Regulators probe block trading at Morgan Stanley, Goldman, other Wall Street firms. Justice Department investigates large share sales, communication between banks and hedge funds. This is how they're manipulating it right here. Is that they are supposed to be competitors and not colluding, but they're saying, hey man, you are going to buy a share of Berkshire Hathaway stock from me after hours for 20% premium, and then I'll do it for you tomorrow. And this is the stuff they're doing. Of course, I can't read the full story because I don't have a Wall Street Journal membership. But federal investigators are probing the issue of block trades, Wall Street examining whether bankers have improperly tipped hedge fund clients in advance of large share sales, according to people familiar with the situation. All right. So there you go. This is about an hour ago. Awesome. There you go. Thank you, Lawrence. See? So slowly they might start picking apart these guys, but I bet they made billions off of this, and they'll fine them $410,000 and be like, "Don't do that again." And that's where we'll be. But that's definitely somebody was a whistleblower for that and said, "Hey, I'm calling a whistleblower status. This is what they're doing. This is my evidence," and hopefully they'll get their $1 million payday for selling out their boss. Pickle beaters. Houston, do you believe RC or GameStop will or can trigger the squeeze, or will it happen naturally? I hope they trigger it. I hope it's not natural. I want them to absolutely just take a 2x4 with a nail in it to the hedge funds. I'm still hoping out, and still holding out, still hoping for a crypto dividend. I think it's diabolical and should happen. RC still has the ability to add like 60% to his portfolio, buy another couple $100 million worth of shares. So why not? Why not? Right now the stock price is relatively low. You may as well execute right now. Why not? Why not, Ryan? Go for it, buddy. Show him who's boss. Uncle Smokey stock trades. I feel like there's way too much speculation on the value of land. I'll wait for Meta to tell me the value. Yeah, it is pretty ridiculous what land is selling for in some places. It is just unsustainable. I'd be happy to see certain rules and regulations come in. The way Vancouver, Canada put an end to foreign real estate speculation in their city, I think was pretty brilliant. A lot of Chinese triads and others were basically gaming the market, flipping these homes, in some cases forcing people to buy, being like, you will buy this house for this much money or I'll kill you and your family. And then they would force them to sell the home 3 months later, and the house prices just got bonkers. But so many of these homes were speculative buying for ways for foreigners to get hard currency assets outside of their nation. So if you are in China and you want to get money out of the country and have it be held, you're going to buy real estate somewhere else. You're going to buy it in London. You're going to buy it in New York. You're going to buy it in Vancouver, whatnot, San Francisco, LA. And these homes, these giant homes would sell for millions of dollars and then sit empty. And so what Vancouver did was they put in a vacancy tax. So if a home sat empty, you had to pay 1% of the home's value for every year it sat empty, which is, if you're selling a home for $1 million, and you're going to be paying $10,000 a year in taxes, that ends up being a lot of taxes. It might be more than that even. So if you have a $7 million home, paying $75,000 a year in taxes. So what they did was they'd hire property managers and rent this place out. I don't care. And all of a sudden you had college kids, students from University of British Columbia that were able to get a mansion for $400 a room. That'd be 5 of them in this big, beautiful house with a pool, living like kings, because it was cheaper to have them sit in that home and have their college parties than it is to let it sit empty and pay a bunch of taxes on it and face losing the house altogether. through foreclosure. So rents went way down after that. I think it would be smart for other places around the U.S. to do something similar, and Seattle needs to do it. New York needs to do it. San Francisco needs to do it. If you're in Manhattan, you'll see these weird, tall, skinny residential buildings with $50 million penthouses and stuff in them, and no one lives in them because some Saudi prince or Russian oligarch bought it so that they could have hard currency assets essentially just sit there, and it just sits empty. And so you have these beautiful, beautiful, amazing penthouses. They're just sitting empty because it's a way of them storing cash offshore. And that's not good for people. Need homes to live in, not homes to sit empty that never get visited or used because they're just a security for folks. That type of stuff really hurts the economy as a whole while helping a really, really rich person. Just in my head, today we celebrate love. The love of this day 243 years ago when Captain Cook got stabbed in the throat trying to kidnap Kalaniʻōpuʻu, the ruling chief of Hawaii. Thoughts on resolution to TMT? Yes, Captain Cook got what he deserved. He treated the Hawaiian people pretty darn poorly while he was there, and they were quite the gracious hosts, even though he was pretty garbage to them. But the TMT is the 30-meter telescope, for those who don't know. And that is a giant 100-foot across telescope that has been trying to get constructed for about 15 years now in Hawaii. I personally feel that 30-meter telescope is A-okay in my mind, but I understand the Hawaiian people going, we don't want that. It's not all the Hawaiian people who say we don't want that. Some of them are like, hey, we have no problem. But it's a matter of control that a lot of the sacred spaces that the Native Hawaiians had were turned into hotels and shopping malls and whatever else, taken over by rich families who bought the best beaches, and they lost the control of their land and of these very sacred areas, and so they're trying to assert power wherever they can. And so what they're doing is they're saying, hey, we don't want this telescope here, because they can say we don't want this telescope here. That's the way I see it. And because they lost control of the land that actually matters. The spot on Mauna Kea isn't sacred. There's no artifacts there. People didn't visit this area. It's cold. It's miserable. There's no resources. So no one hung out there. And that's why the spot was chosen for 30-meter telescope. But the Hawaiians just want to be able to assert power that they haven't had for a long time. And I totally get that. They're protesting for the sake of protesting. What are you rolling against? Well, what do you got? And I get that. And I hope a resolution can be found, because the 30-meter telescope would be just as amazing as the James Webb telescope is going to be. I'm all about advancing science. And I hope that some arrangement can be made. The first telescope in Hawaii was put there by the Merry Monarch in 1880 up on Mauna Kea. It's an 18-inch reflector. And that was the first observatory in Hawaii, and that was when they first realized, holy crap, this is like the best spot on Earth to look at the stars. It is the single greatest spot on planet Earth for looking at the stars. You're high above the water, so you're looking through about 30% less atmosphere. The air at night is all descending. There's only about 14 days a year where it's too cloudy and you can't get any viewing. So the stars don't twinkle very much. The temperature is very even because you're surrounded by ocean. There's no light pollution. It is the best spot other than outer space to look at the stars. So if you can put in a 30-meter telescope, you could advance the science so much. It'd be so awesome. And I hope that a resolution is found, because there's not really a better spot to put that in. Mupulin, what's your opinion on how the reverse repo gets unwound and what happens if it doesn't? I think a lot of the reverse repo right now is storing cash for when the banks need it. So the banks are essentially trading their cash for bonds. That's what's happening. So the Federal Reserve is giving them bonds and taking their cash from them because the cash is seen as a liability. It will get unwound, I think, when the market goes, and then they'll just dump all that cash back on the banks because the banks will need to have the cash. So I think it's sort of a rainy day fund right now for when the shit hits the fan. So that the Federal Reserve is holding onto this cash until something bad happens, because they put too much cash into the market to stave off a depression, and that is, I think that's what they're doing. Is it's sort of like just a pool waiting to fill cash back in on the banks when they need it. But right now they don't need it, and they shouldn't have it. Okay. Looking for things. Spuddy McGriff, if you traveled 64 million light years away from Earth and look back with an awesome telescope, would you see dinosaurs? I mean, if you could instantaneously appear 64 million light years away, yeah. Why not? If you had just an incredible telescope the size of an entire planet, you probably could. Yeah, or at least see the light that was emitted by dinosaurs. Why not? The problem is that if you travel the speed of light, and it would take you 64 million years to get there, and by the time you look back, you'd be looking back at us from 64 million years ago. So you have to somehow do faster than light travel. Oh, you stinky little resetting son of a... Where were we? There we are. Okay. Someone's asking me, Hippie Kia, what's your thoughts on the transparency rule? I think the transparency rule is fantastic. I think what's terrible is that it's going to take 3 years for them to actually implement it. I think it should be implemented yesterday. There we go. Project Sun, did you see the new practical fusion breakthrough at the Coulomb Center of Fusion Energy? No, that's a new one since we talked about it on Friday. Coulomb Center. It's the UK National Fusion Research Laboratory. Where's the news? Give me the news. 5 days ago. Nuclear fusion reactor smashes energy record. All right. Yeah, whatever. Made from fusing atoms. Process the powers of sun. Check out this big old torus in here. Those are all big magnets that contain a plasma chamber. Okay. So, how much energy do they get out of it? Tritium and deuterium. Okay. Using hydrogen. There's the plasma. Looks like it's being... whoop, there it goes. Womp, 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 womp. Okay. 59 megajoules of fusion over 5 seconds. More than double the old record. All right, so this is using hydrogen isotopes, and I want to know what we can do once we get the helium isotopes in serious numbers from the moon. That should be pretty cool. But right on. I did not read about this. Yeah. All right. Okay, so this machine is going to be all done by next year, and they're probably moving on to other machines. Interesting. Thank you, Project Sun. I dig that. Andrzej Ziotkovic. Sorry, I'm going to totally butcher your name. Vaccine doesn't work. No, it does. Since September, 99.3% of those who have died from COVID were unvaccinated, and they are a minority of the population. The vaccine works. Currently, 80% of all infections are among the unvaccinated, despite being 30% of the population in the United States. Vaccines work. In Israel, despite being only 14% of the population, they are all of the intensive care patients are unvaccinated. In Israel, the vaccines work. Just get vaccinated, get boosted, save lives. Okay. Rupulin, I know it's popular not to believe the Fed. I get that. But is soft landing possible? And if it is, what would it look like? I don't know if soft landing is possible at this point. I think a year ago, they probably could have done one. And if they'd let GameStop squeeze to $1,000, you would have been a whole bunch of new millionaires. Everyone would have been happy. You're all done. And then when Apex and their little brokerage apps didn't let that happen. And then people were out for blood, and the buy and hold strategy took on new meaning. And I don't think a soft landing is possible at this point anymore. I think everybody's looking to just blow this thing wide open. The Fed may try, but I don't know if they can. I think they delayed it for so long that they just managed a whole nother year of these hedge funds digging the hole deeper. And I think it's just going to get worse. I don't know if soft landing. I think they might think it's possible, but I don't know if they realize just how angry millions and millions and millions of investors are, and how we want our due. We want our day. We want it. And they may try, but I don't think a soft landing is possible at all. Titus Millican, what is this garbage rambling? It's my garbage rambling. And there's 473 people currently listening to my garbage rambling right now. So there you go. Pam the Trader likes my shirt. Thank you. This is an old J. Crew shirt from, I think, probably back in the 90s. It's still a little big on me. It's for like a much meatier person than I am. It's one of those things. When I get my MOS, one of the things I'm going to splurge on is getting all my really cool shirts actually tailored to my size. Because a lot of them are given to me or Goodwill finds that I'm just like, I like that pattern. And then I'm stuck with a shirt made for, I could just gain a bunch of weight maybe and fill a sucker out. Okay. Market moves. Got some coordinates here. Let's see what you got. Let's see what you got. Let's go somewhere. Let's go somewhere in the world and see where we end up. Bam, bam, bam. Going Western United States. We're going to... Oh, is this University Lands? Oh, the oil well. There we go. That's the oil well for the University Lands there. This is where the torch lands are. So this is the patch in West Texas. Look at these old crypto volcanoes, though. There's a couple of crypto volcanoes. Okay, so not too far from El Paso, right on the border with New Mexico. All right. This isn't too far from where Van Horn, I think, is where Bezos' space facility is out here somewhere near Van Horn. That's the runway. It's probably out here. Culberson County Airport? Nope, not that one. But yeah, Bezos has his 1 million acres or so somewhere out here where his spaceport is. I don't know where it is. Somewhere. Oh, maybe this is it. Nah, it's a quarry. But, it's a big old patch of nothing out here. You can buy land really cheap. It might not come with the energy leases, energy rights, but you can buy 500 acres of land for a few $1,000s out here. There's a whole lot of nothing in a lot of spots out here in West Texas. So, yeah. A lot of cool crypto volcanoes all through there, though. You can find really, really big ammolites. Big old sea creatures. I am still so far. I'm an hour behind still. I keep trying to catch up, and it's not working. Okay, but we did get in quite a few repeat questions, so I can kind of skip a lot of those. Future Catman, Louis Theroux's most recent documentary, Forbidden America, was a decent watch. If you can't watch it over there, Houston. Okay, good recommendations. I'll take that. Forbidden America. Crafted Genius International Ape here. If I donate and PM you my address, could you send a signed sticker? Sure. I might need to find a pen I can sign a sticker with. No, I do have a permanent marker. I could probably sign with that guy. Yeah, why not? Send you a sticker. I haven't checked my P.O. box. I'll try to go after the show today and check the P.O. box. If I can get that done before 4:30. McMill spot: in the event of Russian invasion of Ukraine, U.S. government will aggressively target high-profile oligarchs for sanctions, asset seizures, legal investigations and prosecutions, and visa bans. I wouldn't doubt it. They froze most of those guys' assets in the first place, although they're still working with other foreign banks and trying to move that stuff through. But the U.S. wrote banking code. We're the ones who created the computer system that all the banks communicate with, and that gives us a backdoor access to pretty much freeze anything we want. So if you want to be involved in banking internationally, you've got to sign on to a system that the United States wrote, and we have access to everything as a result of that. So it's really hard if you want to move money around and the U.S. government doesn't want you to, they can very easily stop you from doing that. Most of the time, it seems they just go, "There's let people do it." But if they really want to, if they're motivated, they will. They'll jump in there. Matt Newton, Gary Gensler report on GME last week. I heard nothing. I heard nothing. Also, I was really expecting him to. He said he was going to come out with something, and then nothing happened. Why? We could speculate that on a lot, but man, why? Why would that not be the case? I don't know. Was it not ready? Did new information come to light? Was he scared to do it? I don't know. And I want him to come out and say exactly what's going to be the result of that. Carlton, $40 million spent out of the money puts for 414. Someone definitely knows something. All right. There you go. Julianne, dang, I missed the late night shows. I'll probably do a late night show on Wednesday. I have some things I gotta get done this evening and meet up with a friend, so I have to do an earlier show today. The Europeans hate it when I do the late night shows, but watch it later. There we go. Okay, I'm going to skip ahead a little bit here, try to catch up, get a little more. It's only 40 minutes behind and not an hour behind. Squamps, I just got a job at the post office. There's a union. Unions are incredible. Hope Jeff Bezos gets eaten by space slugs. I get breaks and raises and benefits. Holy crap. Yeah, unions are pretty nice. You're going to work overtime, they're going to pay you a boatload for it. You're going to get guaranteed days off and paid vacations and health care and all these other things that they got to provide. Join those unions, man. Do it. Project Sun says don't do cocaine either because of the fentanyl. It's making its way into it due to cutting drugs in the same room. My DJ buddy died from bad cocaine. Festival was playing. Yeah, I know a girl that died from fentanyl-laced cocaine last year before. Just don't. Just eat chocolate, drink a Coca-Cola. Let that be like the level of your. I'm square, so level of your illicit drug consumption. CV, besides hate for Russia, how will the U.S. benefit from Ukraine-Russia war? Seems like so much fear-monger comes from the U.S. government and media when even Ukraine say everything. I'm not sure what benefit there is for anybody in war. But right now, I think Putin's just on everyone's shit list, is what I think. And Europeans don't want Putin closer. They don't. Especially the former satellite states. They see if Putin can take Ukraine, he can take any of the former satellite states and no one's safe. So, and that's I think what they're worrying about. I do think that there should be other ways that we combat this. Maybe not necessarily military force, but maybe we take a page out of Russia's playbook and create our own troll farms and just troll the shit out of Russia. Why not? Mupulin, do you believe Melvin Capital's death is likely soon? Yeah. I don't think Melvin is long for this world, man. I think that they're toast. I don't know how much longer they can hold on. I don't think they can get bailouts from their buddies anymore. I think they may set them adrift. And if Melvin goes under and they have $300 billion in margin that has to be bought back, that's going to be big news for everybody. That's a lot of buying that has to happen. A lot of closing out positions. And the big banks that lent to Melvin for their margin, I don't think they can afford to deal with that. And that might be a beginning of a trigger for other things. Wildcat Strike 3, with big auto manufacturers gearing up for electric vehicles, is a good time for puts on Tesla. Yeah, I mean, right now Tesla has a big giant quality problem. JD Power and Associates, the initial Teslas that came out 10 years ago, JD Power was like, these are the best cars ever. And 10 years later, they're like, these are the worst cars with the worst quality, and they've got more problems per 100 vehicles than anything. One of the things about an electric vehicle is supposed to be the problems per vehicle. The way they do it is problems per 100 vehicles. And if you have a car that has like 140 problems per 100 vehicles, it's actually a pretty good rating. When you have a car that has 200 problems per 100 vehicles, then you get into really crappy zone. And this could be anything from, all the valves bent, or there's a rattle in the dash, or the seat is uncomfortable. Things like that get counted as problems. So it can be all across the board, from something cataclysmic to making the car not work to, the radio is fuzzy no matter what station it's tuned to. But the problems per vehicle on Teslas are higher than any manufactured car right now. And if they're going up against car manufacturers who have 100 years of experience making quality vehicles and having fantastic customer service along the line and great warranty options and warranty fulfillment, they could be facing some real trouble, especially if these manufacturers can produce as high quality or better quality cars for cheaper. They can perform just as well. Not everyone's going to be buying the Porsche Taycan and spending $250,000 on one of them. Some of them just want an electric car that can go 300 miles per charge and go highway speeds and be comfortable and have the AC blasting. So that's a lot of what they're looking forward to. I think Tesla might be wise to purchase, because they got so much market cap they can throw the weight around, to purchase some established car companies. That might be something smart that they would do, but I'm not sure if Elon would get that memo or not. But I think there is some reckoning that may happen with Tesla. Tesla has been in the middle of a squeeze for so long that's one of the main reasons why the stock price is so high, and that they might be artificially inflated there for quite a while. Meow meow. Bill Huang inspired Cathie Wood with The Fall of Archegos. Is it possible he was merely a pumper who inspired her to merely be a pumper? I think Bill Huang was the canary in the coal mine for family funds. That's for sure. I'm not sure about Cathie Wood in that respect. But Huang, I think, opened up everyone's eyes to just how much leverage there is on these family firms that don't have to report anything. And so we have no idea. There's $7.7 trillion invested in these family funds, and we can't look into any of their books. We have no idea what they've shorted on. We have no idea what their plays are, what their liabilities are. It is a big, giant, cloak that's over all of them. I think that's really what scares the SEC right now, is that part of the transparency rules, I believe, was to try and get family funds to have to report this stuff as well, which is still 3 years out. And when the shit hits the fan, it's not just going to be these hedge funds that we are going to be dealing with liquidations, but it's going to be some of these huge family funds that have been secretly doing all sorts of plays and investing in companies and just not reporting what they own. Yeah, I think that's the unknown. That's the scary unknown. Is like, you got your hedge funds, bro, got trillions of dollars in assets, and then looming over them is this big shadowy figure of the family funds, these private funds. And that is the one I'm very curious to see how that plays out. We have a good idea of what's going to happen to hedge funds when they get liquidated. We have no idea what's going to happen with family funds when they get liquidated. Oh, Fabian Garcia. Late to the show. Can you give me cliff notes from the most important info talked in the episode regarding GME and AMC? We actually didn't talk too much about GME and AMC this show, have we? Did we talk about them at all? A little bit about someone was saying that they basically run out of options for AMC, which is, utilization rates are high for both. Utilization rates are like 100% for both of them right now, and the borrowing fee and interest rates are going up. That might be about it. Nobody got anything else there, Monkey? Hiding from the camera behind her little bed. Man, that's about it, Fabian. We didn't talk too much about AMC and GME today. 40 ounce Oracle, Houston. One petrol head to another. Cars are great, but you ever owned a motorcycle? Side note, American Top Gear is god awful. American Top Gear is friggin' garbage. They just are posers, man. I do not like it. Every iteration of American Top Gear has been absolute just. But have I ever owned a motorcycle? No, I've never owned a motorcycle. I've ridden them. I've ridden on them. I remember one year I've gone to, most years I go to Sturgis because I happen to be out west, out in like the Rockies during that time, and so I have a friend whose family owns a lodge in the Spearfish Canyon area, and so we go and hang out there and party down at Sturgis, go to a bunch of shows. And I had one of the greatest motorcycle experiences of my life was there's a very, very beautiful lady who was a bartender at One-Eyed Jack's Saloon. She looked like Marilyn Monroe, absolutely gorgeous and lovely and kind. And my friends and I, when we'd roll into Sturgis, we were the hits. Why? Because we're not 5'5", 250 pounds, old, bald, and dressed in stinky leather. We don't really care about motorcycles. Like, we'll look at the cool ones and appreciate them and whatever, but we aren't motorcycle dudes. We roll in with t-shirts, board shorts, and flip-flops, and are just there for the shows and party down. And so you have thousands of amazing, beautiful models that will come in and work because they can make like $10,000 a day for 10 days working Sturgis and tips and whatnot. And they're there to party also, and they don't want to party with like some of these geezers, right, Monkey? They don't want to. No, they don't. And come on, come say hi. And so anyway, this beautiful, lovely lady and we went on some wonderful dates. But she had a motorcycle, and during the day she would wear like, basically lingerie and like chaps with a thong or whatever, because that's what you do when you're Sturgis and you are a beautiful bartender at one of these bars. And so we went to a concert, and then she gave me a ride home on her motorcycle, and I'm on the back of her motorcycle, and I have my hands on her waist. She's like, nope. She put my hands on her boobs. I'm like, whoa, this is awesome. So we're riding along, my hands are on this beautiful lady's boobs, and we're driving along, and we get to the stoplight, and right at the stoplight, she's got her foot down waiting, and I'm just hanging on to boobs and having a great time. And rolls next to us is this like giant fat guy, this big old chopper, $80,000 motorcycle. He's got this tractor seat he's on. He's by himself, and he looks at me. He does this double take, and I just look at him. I'm like, we've been doing it wrong all these years. And she just takes off. And I bet that guy was reevaluating all sorts of lifestyle decisions at that point forward. That was so much fun. It was a great day, wasn't it, Monkey? If you have the chance to be the Bob on the back of a motorcycle, the beautiful woman, take it. It is a wonderful, wonderful place to be. If you guys don't know what a Bob is, look it up. Normally you got the big burly dude and his wife on the back. Seriously, just reverse that situation and life is so much better. But yes, I've thought about getting a motorcycle. I just have never gotten around to it. Every time I think about it, someone I know gets in a horrible accident, and I'm like, that's going to be me. I don't know. I'd rather rely on a beautiful woman to drive me around on a motorcycle than my own skills, I think. Okay. I got like 6-7 minutes left for the day before I got to go out there and get some stuff done. That's right, Mickey Dog. She's looking at me. She's like, you taking me for a long walk yet? Yes, we're going to be going for a walk soon, buddy. We'll be going for a walk soon. Oh, you're such a good dog. All right. I'm going to scroll down. I'm going to get towards the end here and try to get some of these ones at the end. Sorry if I skipped your questions. I always can't get to all of them, but I can try. I try the best I can. Okay. Barf Boo says Gary Gensler is building up those FTDs again. FTDs are definitely building up. So that stuff is yeah. It's getting there. All right. Mike Millspaw, are you aware of Sir Richard Branson's Virgin Hyperloop huge test tube in the middle of the Nevada desert where pods travel 670 miles an hour, future travel from LA to Vegas in 40 minutes? I think if the Hyperloop is for actual passengers and not to like put a Tesla vehicle on and have them cruise along, it's a much better chance of being a viable technology. Theoretically, you can make a Hyperloop go thousands of miles an hour if you can create the vacuum well enough. I think the original idea was to do a loop that basically went from LA out to DC, New York, and back again, and just was a constant cycle, one direction or the other, as it does such a loop. And I think that's viable technology. If you can go 4,000 miles an hour across the country and get from LA to Washington, D.C. in 45 minutes, rad. That's, you could start commuting. You could live anywhere you want along that route and commute to work that way. So I think that tech's awesome. But that was originally what Tesla was trying, what Elon was trying for with Tesla and the Boring Company. It was like, oh, we're going to do all this. And then he realized, wait, we can just make a tunnel and put our cars in the tunnel. And then all of a sudden, you just made another lane of traffic, just exclusive to your cars. And I don't know if you saw a video recently of the traffic jam in the Nevada test tunnel for Tesla. And it was, you get into this tunnel and you're stopped. There's just two people in the tunnel, and now you're going 5 miles an hour. Just like any other traffic problem. Creating more lanes does not alleviate traffic. Anyone who's ever done a planning degree or civil engineering can tell you that much. Boom power. Big fan of the stream. Check out Giant's Causeway. Love from Ireland. I'd love to go to Giant's Causeway someday. It is amazing rock formation. A lot of cool basalt there. Almost out of water. Yeah. 40-ounce Oracle Houston. Some of the other GME people on YouTube seem to think that the short hedge funds can eventually kick their way out of a short squeeze. Thoughts? I assume they can't afford to kick forever. I don't think they can afford to kick forever. I mean, every time that they push the price back down when they get a little leeway, is just more liability for them. They're not closing positions. They never have. So, eventually they got to close. I mean, they're just creating more and more naked shorts every single day that this exists, because the only way they can keep the price down is by artificially keeping it down by creating more naked shorts. You can look at any metric of buy versus sell, and more people are buying than selling of any trader out there. And so that just means they're creating naked shares, and we're buying more and more naked shares each time. And that's it. True Seeker, Tesla is getting lined up to purchase Mercedes. I've heard that rumor. I'm very curious to see if that's the case. It'd be very smart of Tesla to try and pick up someone who's got a history of making really high quality cars. That's for sure. Like Millspaw, if Tesla wanted to buy a business, perhaps it could focus on several key energy companies, in particular those companies that are energy providers to Tesla gigafactories. Yeah, vertically integrate, man. That's another great business model. The conglomerates exist for a reason, and oftentimes, subcontracting things is not the cheaper way to do it. That you just get the cow rather than buy the milk, and then go and start from square one. Oh, then just reset again. I can do like one more here. So let's find a nice one here. Georgie's right. Batteries have to be recycled. Lithium is more environmentally detrimental in mine than gas-powered cars. It takes a lot more carbon footprint to build an electric car than it does to build a traditional gas-powered car because of the lithium mining. Lithium mining is brutal. It takes a lot of energy to do that. S3, my coworker bought a bike and almost immediately got hit. Yeah, that's how it happens for a lot of folks. Richard Newswinder, how high do you think BBIG can squeeze to? $100? I bet triple digits is a reasonable place for them to squeeze to. I don't see why not. When it squeezes, they gotta announce that freaking dividend, man. They gotta send that out to everybody. That's their big go-to right now. Okay. What we got? I can do one more here. One more big one. Let's kick that can down the road one. I think, is that it for the day? Is that all we got? David Morgan says martial law declared in Canada. I hadn't heard about that, but they seem to be arresting a lot of folks who are blocking bridges and stuff at the moment. Yeah. Okay. All right. That would be it for me today. Monkey Butt, she checked out. She's like, I'm out of here. I'll see you guys on Wednesday. I might do tonight and tomorrow night, do a Twitch stream, play some GeoGuessr both nights. So look for that if you're up late. We'll play some GeoGuessr and have ourselves a time. And other than that, I'll see you for the regular show Wednesday, probably Wednesday evening. It'll probably be an after dark on Wednesday. I'm not going to guarantee anything, but that's probably where it's going to be. And I'll see you guys then. Take care. Have fun. Have a lovely Valentine's Day. Don't forget to take your wives and girlfriends out, give them flowers, and a wonderful time, because if you don't, you are in Schitt's Creek. You can be in the doghouse. So, do that. Oh, like, subscribe, send self-addressed envelope. I'll send you a sticker. What else I have to say? Have a good one. Yeah. Peace.